Moving into prong collars. Some people are like, oh my gosh, prong collars are horrible.
Yeah.
I've seen good results with it if used properly, but there's always a little bit more controversy on the prong collars than any of the other no-pull devices. So what would your expert advice be?
Yeah, I mean, again, it is a very controversial topic and primarily because of the perception. And actually, I would say I get just as much kickback on a gentle leader as I do on a prong collar.
Interesting.
Because I think people think it's a muzzle and they put it on the dog and the dog flailed around. And so they thought, oh my God, my dog hated it. And maybe your dog is not a good candidate for a gentle leader, or maybe not. I mean, some dogs really panic at that and they cannot get their head together. So a gentle leader is torture. Some people would think the same thing about a prong collar. So interestingly enough, even though prong collar training is not my expertise, I am a positive reinforcement trainer, but that doesn't mean that you have in only positive, meaning cookies, treats, praise only, you only get half of the training. There are 4 quadrants to learning and 2 are positive and 2 are negative. And so when we think about pulling, we have to apply a consequence that the dog figures is serious enough to stop the behavior. And often pulling has been trained by us because we permit it. So whatever consequence you need to give your dog to get them to stop the behavior is important. And a prong collar is extremely effective and immediate. So it can be a very good training tool. It can be a very safe training tool when used properly. It can also be extremely dangerous if it's not used properly. And so some of the things about the prong collar that is misunderstood is its proper fitting. Most people allow for it to be low and loose, and that is incorrect and more dangerous than anything because it's putting pressure on the windpipe where it shouldn't. It's also dragging, twisting, and pulling, which is possibly desensitizing your dog to the sensation, which they should be sensitized to. We want them to feel it, immediately react, so there's very little pressure. If the dog is getting used to the pulling and the poking, and then it's going to pull harder, potentially hurt itself, cause damage, just like any other tool. And this gentle leader too. If they start to pull on it and you let them and you are not learning the proper technique, you could cause injury to the neck. Prong collars create more of a pinching. So if it's properly fit, it's going to be high up under the jawline and high up on the head, which is the weakest point of the dog's neck, easy to control and manipulate without a lot of force. And the point is that it provides perfect reinforcement. If I pull against it, I feel the pinching. If I stop pulling, the pinching stops.
It goes away.
Absolutely. So properly fit and used properly with good technique is important. But there's another very important part of a prong collar that actually might be something you guys want to look into is a secondary point of safety. So prong collars are designed to break open under high stress, and rarely is it sold in the store where a second collar is encouraged. They're like, if we know the product Star Mark, it's a plastic collar. It comes with a nylon secondary collar. It's the only one I've seen that comes with it. Now, there's other really great websites where you can find secondary collars, but basically it's just a slip lead and it clips at the same clip as the prong. So if the prong opens up, the slip lead is on. But it's really important and something that I think we don't talk about enough. And because I'm not a prong collar trainer, it's not a discussion I have. And it's something that I think is really important. If you put a prong on your dog, you have to have a secondary point of safety so that your dog doesn't escape from the prong.
Old school chokes. So regular metal choke collars.
Yeah, so this one you're probably going to see me almost never use at this point in my career. And the reason is because, again, handlers don't always know what they're doing. They can be extremely effective. They sit beautifully up under the neck. They release nicely. If they're used properly, the dog's not getting all the choking. But it is all the way around 360-degree pressure, and you are putting pressure on very vulnerable parts of the neck. And so again, any tool that a person's coming in saying my dog's a puller, so any tool that gets put on that they don't know how to use could really hurt their dog. And so again, a choke chain is the least favorite because most people don't know how to get the release so that the dog gets the breath again. The choking effect has other ramifications, and one of them being blacking out. And a dog cannot tell you that they're running out of oxygen. And most dogs smart as they are, don't understand that they're actually choking themselves. So in a martingale situation or a choke chain situation, the pressure is completely wrapped around the neck. And if the dog is pulling for any length of time, even a couple seconds, you could be starting to have problems getting oxygen.
And that is one of the least sold, purchased, inventoried item at the store for those exact reasons. If you don't know what you're doing, we shouldn't have those items available. Therefore, we don't recommend them. And I think that, again, knowing the right way to handle all of these training tools are very important, because if the customer is not trained well, then the dog's not going to be trained well.
What I have learned in my years of working with pet owners is that it doesn't matter what technique you're trying to use. If the pet owner is not fully understanding their job or fully able to commit and really make this a mission that they're going to teach their dog, there's a lot of risk. So sometimes I don't recommend tools purely because they're in the hands of untrained people, not because I don't necessarily agree with them or I have a moral, like shock collars are one you're going to hear me argue a lot about. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But one is because they're often in the hands of people who don't know what they're doing.
And if you don't know what you're doing, you shouldn't have it.